Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic.
The summoning from Earth country made Minato feel uneasy. After being starved of weaponry and low on manpower, Earth had no choice but to surrender to Sand and Leaf. That left bitter unrest and high mistrust. The Tsuchikage in particular was a stubborn old man stuck in his ways of tradition. Because of his stubbornness, the surrender at the Land of Fangs 3 years ago was like pulling teeth. There was even a rumor that children 3 years and younger with blonde hair and blue eyes were terminated or undergone severe paternal test. Minato understood Earth's logic, but it was still a bit disturbing. Currently, Minato was sitting in the privacy of his office with Sarutobi, Homura, and Kaharu discussing the details. Sarutobi-sama sent Minato a sharp look. "You're not seriously considered going, are you?" he asked. Minato sighed. "Unfortunately, yes, Minato, I and Onoki were talking out the side our mouths on that day in order to try and ease international tensions. You don't have to honor this meeting," Hiruzen tried to say. "Yes, I do, Minato. You can't. It will reflect badly on the Leaf to reject the Tsuchikage's generosity," Minato stated firmly. "Then I will go in your place," Hiruzen offered next. "After all, I was in charge during the Third Great Shinobi War. I appreciate it, but I must decline your offer. I need to attend this dinner because it's just not the Tsuchikage who would be there," Minato said. "That's right," Homura spoke up with a nod. "The newly elected Raikage will be there as well, including our ally, Jinshin, the fourth Kazekage. And most importantly, Yugura the third Mizukage," Minato said lowly, with his eyes narrowing. The three elders felt as though Minato's aura had dropped the temperature of the room by several degrees. "I wish to confront him for some rumors of cruelty and unusual torture upon his citizens and missed nins. Not to mention the senseless string of murders concerning families with Kekkei Genkai." Kaharu frowned. "Careful, Hokage-sama. You mustn't provoke anything at this engagement," she warned Minato gravely. "It's not my intention," Minato reassured her with a forced smile. Homura's response, however, was the opposite. "Splendid, Hokage-sama," he approved happily. "We must take an active role in our international community after all." Kaharu frowned at Homura before looking up at Minato sternly. "Then at least allow members from the Anbu to accompany you." "Actually, Kaharu-san, I already have 3 specific people in mind," Minato begged to differ. "May I ask who?" "Shikaku Nara, Sume Inuzuka, and my old student, Rin," Minato told her. Kaharu's nose twitched. "How eccentric, are you sure of this?" Minato smiled. "To put your mind at ease, I will explain my choices. I chose Shikaku because of his international knowledge and keen intellect. Sume, along with her ninja hound, is an excellent bodyguard. And Rin is medic nin who will be there if anything goes wrong." At seeing Sarutobi's concerned look, Minato added quickly, "Of which I seriously doubt." Homura nodded. "Very well," he approved. "Have a safe journey, Hokage-sama," he bowed. Kaharu and Hijirin reluctantly followed Homura's gesture. Minato sighed. Now only if he could achieve the same support at home. "Databane. Minato. You have got to be kidding me." Kushina yelled. "You can't travel out like this while you are preggers. ... So much for support. I'll be fine, Kushina, I promise," Minato tried to reassure his wife, and failing. "As if you can see into the future." Kushina snapped. "Too many things can go wrong. Kushina, I have a good team going with me, I'll be fine." Minato insisted for the 10th time. "Can I come with you at least?" Minato tried to embrace her, but Kushina wouldn't have it. He sighed. "It's safer if you remained at home. I will not be gone for long, Koi." "Don't koi me," Kushina shouted. Her shoulders shook. "Grr. Minato. You make me Sujiyaah. You baka," she roared as she stormed out of the room. Minato blinked after her. "Well, that went better than I expected. Being pregnant had its pluses. At least for now," his wife refrained from hitting him. Dot dot dot. Dot dot dot. I guess Kushina could not talk you out of it. Minato didn't even look up from the paperwork on his desk. The person who had just entered his office was his last obstacle. No, afraid not, Bawako-sama. The old woman sighed. Minato, this is incredibly selfish of you. Minato looked up on that one. Selfish? He asked incredulously. I beg to differ. This isn't easy on me by a long shot. Bawako didn't let him finish his excuses when she said, it's not just you anymore. You are responsible for that little life growing inside your belly. You need to stop this deliberate action of putting yourself in danger. Minato scowled. Pregnant or not, I am still the Hokage. Konohagakure is like a second child to me. I must always defend her because she is my own. The dinner is an opportunity to ensure Konoha's standing among the 5 great shinobi nations. I must go. He stressed the last 3 words. Bawako stared at Minato defiantly. Well, apparently you have made up your mind. I suppose there is nothing else to said. She bowed stiffly before exiting the room. Minato sighed. He stroked his hand over his flat stomach protectively. I will be very careful. Dot dot dot. Dot dot dot. It was 3 days later when Shikaku sighed. He looked off to the side toward the shrubs where his leader had gone off to. He knew something was wrong. This is like the 3rd time we have stopped in the past hour. Sume grumbled under her breath. She was knelt down to the ground as she scratched behind her ninja hound, Kuromaru's, ear. If this keeps up, it'll take us 2 months to get to Stone Hills. Complaining about it isn't going to get us there any faster, Shikaku responded wisely. Smartass, Sume scoffed. She then sighed and looked up at Shikaku. The Nara headman could see traces of concern in her animalistic eyes. I just hope Hokage-sama is okay. He's still a bit sick, I see. Then she added. He also has this strange smell on him. I'm not sure what's causing it. That got Shikaku's attention. What smell in particular? Sume flapped her hand. Nothing to be concerned over. It's just, well, like his hormones seem a little ed up, that's all. Maybe it's a disorder or something. Kuromaru glanced up at her. I doubt it. He wanted to say more but didn't elaborate. Shikaku hummed to himself. He stroked his chin. Out of the corner of his eye, Shikaku saw Rin fidgeting. Hokage-sama had insisted on her presence. Indeed, she was useful as a medic nin, but he couldn't help but notice how worried the girl appeared to be. She kept glancing every 20 seconds in the direction Minato had disappeared into. Rin. The young Junin jumped. Why yes, Nara-san. She asked politely. Shikaku smiled gently. Shikaku is just fine, we are colleagues now. Besides, all the formalities are just bothersome. Okay, Shikaku-san, is there something about Minato-sama that we, his guards, should be aware of? Shikaku asked. Sume and Kuromaru looked over at Rin, listening intensely. Well, Rin's eyes flickered downward for a moment before looking back up at Shikaku. A red flag automatically went off in the man's head. Being in integration for a couple of years during the Third Great Ninja War, Shikaku had learned to read facial expressions. The girl was about to lie to him. Minato-sama has a terrible case of acute gastritis. He almost cancelled, but he knows how important this occasion is, so he couldn't risk sending someone in his stead. Shikaku nodded. All right, thank you for clarifying that, he said. Shikaku's head was now swimming with new possibilities. Something was defiantly wrong or different about Minato. And it was obviously something big. Why else would Hokage-sama and his medic try to hide it? Shikaku crossed his arms. Now that he thought about it, all of this started nearly 5 weeks ago. Minato suddenly went AWOL and a few days later he was found recovering in the hospital from what he didn't know. Stupid patient confidentiality. It was nearly impossible to pull up files on the Hokage without raising suspicions, and what if word got back to Minato himself? Minato stepped out of the forest. Hello everyone, sorry to keep you all waiting, he said with a sheepish smile. He was rubbing the back of his head while the other hand was over his stomach. Shikaku noticed this. Perhaps it was just stomach inflammation, maybe he was overthinking things. It's nothing, Hokage-sama, Shikaku said. Are you alright, sir? Sume asked over Shikaku. Hokage-sama, may I have permission to speak freely? Minato was mildly surprised. Sure, I'm just a little concerned here. This is the third stop and so I advise we stop in a local town for room and board tonight. Because frankly sir you look like shit. Sume. Shikaku chided. Sometimes that woman couldn't hold her tongue for nothing. Hey, I got permission. I second Sume-san, Minato-sensei, Rin spoke up, urgently. Please don't push yourself. You shouldn't be out in the elements while you're still recovering from your illness. Minato sighed. Fine, the dinner isn't scheduled until Friday. I suppose we have a few days to spare, let's stop at the next city, which is Land of Red Clay's Raven's Peak I believe. There, Rin said, taken aback. Yeah, it's the closest. Something wrong with that location? Minato asked concerned. It's kinda jinxed, that place I mean. All the omens and curses that was said to be casted there, Rin shivered. Can we not go there? She begged. Gather your courage, pup. Sume said. She slapped Rin's back hard, causing the poor girl to stumble forward. Kuromaru barked in agreement. It's nothing but superstition after all. Sensei. No, Rin pleaded pathetically. Minato sighed, before smiling weakly. It'll be okay, Rin, he reassured her. But, catching herself, Rin bowed her head. Yes, Hokage-sama. Once the comradeship had arrived at Raven's Peak, Rin felt silly for protesting in the first place. It looked like a normal place, nothing spooky or ominous about it. It was just a small makeshift town on the side of a cliff. It wasn't hard to find an inn either. It was a brown tavern that looked moderately kept up. As they were about to enter, a shivered old woman called out to Minato from the alley. Your fate will be the same, the old woman muttered out. Minato glanced over. What? You, Minato, have done this upon yourself in hopes of saving yourself, but once again you must choose. Your death cannot be changed. Buzz off, you old crow. Sume snapped. Don't listen to stuff like that, Hokage-sama, Rin said. But how did she know my name? Minato asked. Rin, Shikaku and Sume sent him incredulous looks. Shikaku blinked. You are pretty notorious as the Yellow Flash. You are wearing a leaf headband, Sume pointed out. And blue eyes and blonde hair is sorta rare, Rin answered. Minato felt silly for even considering if the woman's words were true. Once they settled in the tavern, the small group were sitting in a small booth eating a light supper. Shikaku didn't know what the hell was going on. His leader and Sume were ordering some of the most nastiest combination of food he had ever seen. Minato was eating chocolate-covered bacon, made by request, with cucumbers, and Sume was eating sauerkraut banana sandwiches loaded with hot sauce. Shikaku raised his eyebrows. Sume, you're a bit more eccentric than usual, he muttered. And you too, Minato, he thought. Sume glared. Shut it, Nara, she snapped back as she took another big bite out of her sandwich. Kuromaru lifted his head and said, Actually, Sue, I think he has a point, he said. You smell different. Kuromaru. Let me finish my sentence, woman. That isn't what I meant. Kuromaru snapped his jaws in frustration. I meant that your scent has changed recently. Beforehand I could barely notice it and now it's quite evident. He trailed. With a thoughtful look on his face he asked, when was the last time you mated? Sume shrugged. I get laid on the daily basics, can't keep up with that number, she answered him, oblivious to the discomfort of her teammates. If I had to pinpoint a definite day, I'd say last Thursday. Why? She turned to her partner with a curious look. Kuromaru sent her a flat look. You are so pupped, he deadpanned. Sume stared down at Kuromaru disbelievingly for a moment before yelling loudly, What? Accidentally getting the restaurant's attention too. Shikaku palmed his forehead. So much for staying under the radar, he sighed. Bothersome, just bothersome. Kuromaru, you better not be playing with me. Sume demanded. Kuromaru's ears twitched irritably. You are carrying that same scent on you when you were carrying Hana in your womb, he explained. He shifted his eyes over to look at Minato inquisitively before turning back to Sume. Rin and Minato turned pale as dread settled into the pits of their stomachs. Turning to each other, Rin and Minato shared the same trail of thought. Shit. Henges doesn't cover sense. What are we going to do? Rin. Why yes. Rin stuttered as she faced Sume. Check me. Now. Why yeah. Okay. Rin agreed. She used the mystical palm sensory over Sume's abdomen. After a moment she blinked and removed her hands. Sume, you're pregnant, she announced. Sume's jaw fell open like a door hanging on its hinges. You're about a month in. Congratulations. Rin offered. No. Sume snapped. Rin flinched back. This isn't a congratulations. Shikan, that bastard. I've told him to use a condom. When I get back to Konoha, I'm beating the shit out of him. She bellowed venomously. Minato, Shikaku, and Rin felt sorry for the man already. Minato was even filling out a domestic violence report in the back of his head. He did use condoms, Kuromaru spoke up. But they broke. That's what you get for being so rough. Rin, Shikaku, and Minato stared. Rin sighed. Right, I'm going to need some mind soap tonight, she thought. Minato decided to speak up before anything else could be said. Sume, when we return to the village you will be placed on maternity leave. Pardon me, sir, but no flipping way. Sume said. I was bored to death when I was pregnant with my first, Hana, during the Third Great Shinobi War. Minato was about to disagree but he stopped. Who was he to disagree? Was he not in the same boat? Instead he relented. Okay, well maybe you can be moved to work in a more subtle position. He trailed for a moment before asking, do you have a desire to teach? Up till now I would have rather faced the hangman's noose. Sume grumbled but then said, thank you, Hokage-sama, it will be an honor. Minato smiled and nodded. Shikaku looked worried. Are you sure you want Sume around kids, Minato? He asked, sincerely concerned. Knowing her, she probably scar them for life. Bite me, Nara. No thanks, Shikaku declined. I don't want to leave a bad taste in my mouth. More mind soap. Scrub, scrub, scroob. Rin thought furiously. Minato sent them both reassuring smiles. Sume will be fine, he said. I hope so, she raised a daughter. How bad can she be? He thought. All right team, let's get some sleep. We have a day's journey ahead of us. One by one, they made their way upstairs. Minato was able to catch Kuromaru alone before he entered the room with Sume. Kuromaru. Kuromaru stopped and turned to look at Minato expectantly. He knew that this conversation was coming. Yes, Hokage-sama. Minato looked away sheepishly for a moment before turning his eyes back to the dog Nin. I suppose you know, he placed his hand across his flat midsection. Kuromaru gave his superior a reassured nod. I don't know how this is possible but frankly it's none of my business. Worry not. I will not say a word about it, he promised. Minato let out a sigh of relief. Thanks. I doubt anyone would believe me anyway, Kuromaru said before snorting thoughtfully. Heck, I had to double check just to make sure. His eyes narrowed a bit. Still, you shouldn't be outside the village like this, he said in a concerned tone. I'll be fine, Minato said quickly. Kuromaru raised a furry eyebrow. Wow, so there are people just as stubborn as Sume. Joy, he deadpanned before joining his mistress for the night. Minato shook his head in amusement before going to his room only to find that his bed was already occupied by a masked man. Minato traced his hand over the door knob. A black seal glowed and then faded away. Just in case he could use this place as a teleport location. Tracing his fingers over a kunai, Minato approached the man on his pallet. Minato gingerly placed the blade under his throat. Why are you in my room? He whispered. Z's, ba, ballerina mousies, z, the man said drowsily. Minato almost sweat dropped. ZZZZ. Dance Angelina. Dance. Minato defiantly sweat dropped on that one. Minato reached down and cautiously shook his shoulder. The masked man sleepily battered away Minato's hands. No. 5 more minutes, mommy. ZZZZ. Minato scowled. Forcefully he shook him again. Hey, wake up. Finally the man woke up. He flinched back and screamed. Ah, don't eat me, Simba. What? Minato blinked. Oh, you are not a lion. The strange man said. He sighed in relief. Good. I thought you were a lion with your puffy hair. He then looked around the room childishly before turning back to Minato. Where am I? Minato blinked, inwardly wondering if the man was mentally chalagned. You're at the Winged Goblet Inn at Raven's Peak, Minato answered finally. Oh. Toby fell asleep. Oh no. Minato raised his eyebrow at the strange man. Was this all an act or was it for real? Why are you in here? The masked man stumbled to his feet. I was just resting for a minute, I swear. He pleaded as he bowed several times. I spent all my money at supper, so I decided to just rest in a vacant hotel room for a few hours. Minato's face softened. Look, if you can't afford a room, I'll rent you one, he offered generously. But you really shouldn't be falling asleep in a room that you didn't pay for. That's the same as stealing. Oh, that's bad. Yes, very bad. Toby is sorry. It's okay. Minato turned back to the door. Now if you follow me, I'll go to the front desk and reserve a room for you. No need, it's okay. I'll go. The man named Toby opened the window. He was halfway out when he turned around to wave. Goodbye, Mr. Lee Iae. The clumsy oaf had now fallen out the window. Minato ran to the window still and called out, Are you alright? Toby was on the ground in a disheveled pile. Ow! My spine. Hey! Minato called down, ready to jump down and help him if needed. Slowly and painfully, Toby got to his feet. I'm fine. Goodbye, Mr. Lion Mane, he chirped before limping away into the night. Huh, that was just weird. Minato decided. He closed and locked his window. 2 days has passed and the small comradeship from the Leaf Village found themselves in a dense forest area on the border of Stone Hills country. We should be coming up on our destination any moment now, Shikaku announced. Sume's nose twitched irritably. Team, something's mucking up my senses, she said. Minato's eyes flickered over to the left. He almost didn't notice it himself. What is this? Rin asked before she saw the slight ripple in the air. It's a genjutsu. Good. Just as the letter had indicated, Shikaku said. Stand back. I got this. He made several hand signs before focusing his chakra and commanding, release. The illusion wavered a moment before completely vaporing, revealing a mansion on a hillside. Blue clay tile roof and the stone marble gleamed in the basking the sunset. The sight of it took Rin's breath away. Once she was able to regain air, she gasped. Wow, the Tsuchikage picked a nice place for the retreat. She praised, awed by the beauty of the building. Well, it definitely beats going to Iron Country. Sume remarked casually. I almost got frostbite the last time I visited there. But why didn't? Rin turned to Minato. Hey Minato-sensei. Minato answered her half distractedly. Yes, Rin, I was wondering, why didn't the cages meet at Iron? Rin asked. Minato gave his student his full attention. Iron is for more official things, I suppose. This, however, is a Yondaime Hokage. Prepare yourself. What the? Shikaku whirled his head around just in time to see a white blur rush by and ram his Hokage. It was so fast he couldn't even react. What the hell? Sume cried, trying to make sense of what just happened. Minato-sensei. Rin screamed. When the smoke cleared, Minato was using a kunai to hold back a large arm cuff. I'm all right, Rin, Minato, he reassured his student before glaring up at the wreckage. There are other ways of greeting people, you know, eh? Ioku and Kane, the two cloud nins that had accompanied the wreckage to the resort, exchanged sighs. The idea of subtlety never entered A-sama's mind, they remarked. You haven't slowed down a bit, the wreckage replied with a smirk. Minato returned the smirk with one of his own. All because I sit behind a desk most of the time now doesn't mean I go soft. The Raikage lowered his arm. Same for me. I didn't expect you to make it. Well, I had no excuse not to come, Minato replied cheerfully. Earth country is practically in my backyard. Everyone's sweat dropped. Man, Yondaime Hokage is something else. Ioku thought. How can he act so cool with someone who just attacked him as a form of greeting? I commend you for becoming the Raikage, eh? However, I still beat you to the cage title by 2 months. Minato gloated triumphantly. The Raikage bristled. Ah, you Minato. He grumbled. Minato chuckled good-naturedly. Despite himself, a half-smile grew on his face. Grr. All the same, thanks. I guess, the Raikage added offhandedly. How improper. You are the Raikage, now. A new voice said. Accompanied by 2 cloaked associates, Yugura stood at the head of the group who just arrived. He was a short teenager with messy gray hair and a stitch-like scar running down his cheek from under his left eye. Yugura, the Sandaime Mizukage. Minato thought furiously. Just the man he wanted to see. The Raikage was not amused. Have you been living under a rock? He asked in annoyance. I was inaugurated in his Raikage 4 months ago. Yugura sent him a blank stare. I have more pressing matters in my own country than to be concerned with such tedious things, Yugura replied. There was no belittling in his tone. He was just extremely blunt. No matter who is elected Raikage, the relationship between our villages will remain the same. Minato raised his eyebrow. That's a bit pessimistic, don't you think, Yugura-sama? Not at all, Minato-sama. It's simply reality, Yugura replied smoothly. Tradition is tradition. Turning back to the Raikage, he said, and it's traditional for the strongest ninja in the village to lead. It's improper to pass the cage title to the offspring. Hey, one of the cloud bodyguards shouted. With all due respect, Mizukage, Asama earned it. Kane. Ioku hissed to his comrade. Stay out it. Yugura's blank pink eyes flickered over to him. You would think so, he said simply. And what's that supposed to mean? Kane demanded. You are A's subject. Of course you would defend his honor. Wrong bitch, I can defend my own. The Raikage addressed Yugura menacingly. And I have nothing to prove to a mutant sea turtle such as you. Minato mentally groaned as he stepped in between the two before saying, Raikage and Mizukage, let's try to get along. We got a weekend ahead of us. I don't remember asking for your intervention, Minato. Snapped angrily at the Hokage. This little cracker is asking for it. Move, he ordered. It's wise to step aside, Hokage-sama, Yugura insisted dully. He readied his hand on his staff-like pole weapon. Minato-sensei, Rin exclaimed. Oh Kami, I knew this was a bad idea. Shikaku frowned. Sum, prepare to back me up, he said as he readied his shadow possession jutsu. Right, Sum growled. The other bodyguards from Cloud and Mist tensed too. Ready to join in the fight if needed, they would not allow any harm to befall their cage. Even at a pleasant private resort, we cannot douse our animosity toward each other. Greetings, gentlemen, Jinshin, the Yondaime cage remarked as he appeared. The battle tension in the air was broken. A little disappointed, the Raikage and Mizukage disarmed. Minato sighed in relief. The Raikage rolled his eyes. Great, another cracker, he grumbled. Where is the Tsuchikage? Let's get this dinner weekend over with. He snapped as he stormed toward the resort. Ioku and Kane followed him. At dinner, the Raikage felt himself losing his appetite. First there was Anki, the little man with a big mouth and an even bigger ego. He was definitely compensating for something. Then there was Minato, who was eating some disgusting salad combination of tomatoes, bananas and pickles topped off with chocolate sauce. The cage hung back at a distance as if he was trying to size them up, and the damn Mizukage turtle wouldn't even blink. With his eyebrows twitching, the Raikage forced himself to spoon more soup into his mouth. Out of the corner of his eye, the Raikage saw Minato twitch suddenly. His hand went to his stomach as he seemed to brace himself, unintentionally catching the attention of everyone in the room. Minato meanwhile wasn't sure what was happening to him, but then the fluttering intensified. A gasp came from in between his lips. This must be quickening. His child's first movements, and Kushina wasn't here to experience this with him. Suddenly Minato felt someone shaking him frantically. He turned to see it was Rin. Sensei. Is something wrong? Before he could answer her, Rin placed her hand on his lower abdomen. While watching this, the other cages started getting uneasy. The Raikage dropped his spoon immediately. Do you attempt to poison us? The Tsuchikage looked insulted. No. Of course, I wouldn't. How preposterous. He snapped angrily. Jinshin even laid down the breadstick he was chewing on. While Yagura just stared knowingly. Minato began to wonder if the old turtle knew of his condition. I am sure it's just ingestion. Please don't concern yourselves about me. Minato tried to reassure his acquaintances. He stood up. I must excuse myself for the moment. Rin followed him out the room. Once they reached the privacy of his chambers, Rin asked. So sensei, what was going on? Minato smiled softly as he answered, I think the baby moved. Rin's eyes lit up. Really? Minato nodded. I wasn't expecting it at first. I thought it was just gas, but then there was a fluttery jab. Ah. There it is again. Minato said excitedly. Minato rubbed his hands across his lower stomach. Rin smiled for a moment, but then her face turned serious as she reprimanded him. Minato-sensei, you can't be so expressive next time. Because there will be other times you cannot show what you are feeling even if it surprises you. No one can find out about your condition. Minato sent her a patient look. I know Rin, it's just I wasn't expecting the baby to be moving so soon. It won't happen again, I promise, he reassured her. Rin seemed appeased by his response as her stern face melted away and an excited sparkle entered her brown eyes. Oh, I'm just disappointed how I can't feel it yet, Pui, she lamented. You can't? Minato asked. No. Rin patted Minato's flat stomach. It will be at least another month or two before people on the outside can feel the baby's movements, ready to go back. Yeah, I'd better, Minato joked. Nice to see you lived, Minato, the Raikage half joked as Minato reemerged from his chambers. For the last time, Raikage-sama, I did not poison the food. Onoki snapped. Do you think I am a fool to start another war? Let's just put it all behind us, Minato insisted cheerfully. I am fine and the feast Tsuchikage-sama prepared for us is simply scrumptious. Thank you, Yondaime Hokage. Say, Minato, did you have a proposal for us? You mentioned it before you had your little food poisoning episode, Jinshin remarked. For the last time I did not poison the food. Oh, yes. I would to create an alliance of the 5 great nations. The Sandaime Mizukage was the first to speak up. There's no reason for Mist to be involved into international affairs, he said blankly. Why? The Raikage asked impatiently, not liking the idea at all. Don't we already have something like that? Yes, but this is more on an intimate level, Minato tried to explain. It requires communication between the 5 villages. Onoki actually laughed at Minato. Things are fine the way it is, are we not talking now? It's not the same. This meeting is only held on the promise from surrendering in the land of Fang, and the Gokages haven't met in Iron Country for nearly 2 decades. Minato tried to reason. But with the alliance, the cages will meet more often. I want to hold personal accountability to all the nations, including myself, if Konoha is ever to step over the line. Jinshin shook his head. He looked at Minato suspiciously. So in other words, you want to poke your nose into San's business, he said. Minato was alarmed. No, not in the least. I just want international unity, Minato inwardly sighed. Well, that was fail. Okay, on to plan B. Then I suggest we test our strength in an international Chunin exam. All the other cages' ears perked up on that one. Go figure. Minato explained the plan. That the 5 great nations will host Chunin exams for all their genins twice a year, and spectators from across the countries will come and oversee the matches. It was friendly and efficient way to compete for business by showcasing their village's potential. A competitive smirk forged on Onoki's shriveled old lips. Splendid. Now that sounds like an excellent idea. Jinshin nodded in agreement. It sounds interesting. It will give the daimyos a chance to analyze our country's strength. I approve. I need to warn you all, the village hidden in the clouds is stronger than ever. The one who barks has no teeth, Onoki replies. Let me reassure you, old man, smirked at the Tsuchikage. My bite is worse than my bark. Mist will not be involved in such petty games, Yugura stated coldly. It's to help improve international relations, how is that petty Yugura-sama? Minato insisted. Perhaps it's too soon for an alliance, but I think this conjoint exam may present an opportunity for all of our villages, with our intentions reasonable or not, but certainly not a waste of time. I won't beat around the bush. My village is on the verge of civil war, Yugura confessed. I have no time for such things. Maybe in the distant future, but Mist makes no promises. I hope so, Minato said sincerely. Well then, who will host the first exam? Asked. Jinshin half shrugged. I suppose Konoha should lead. It's Minato's idea after all. Very well. Konoha will host the first annual Chunin exams. This July, Onoki announced. Minato raised a blonde eyebrow. By July? Yes, by July or early fall. It's the only good time for all of us, Onoki said. Rin inwardly panicked. There was no way Minato would agree to that. It was too much throwing together an exam in such a short frame of time. Very well, this August. Rin's mouth fell open. The Tsuchikage grinned as he eyed Minato expectantly. Now show us how it's done, Hokage. We expect a lot from Konoha. And Konoha will deliver, Minato answered by strongly. Rin sighed. Minato-sensei will be like 7-ish, no, 8 months pregnant by then, she thought despairingly. I wonder if he's going to be alright. The Kages talked late into the night about the biannual ninja exams expect for Yugura, who retreated to his chambers early for the night. 2 days later, on the morning Minato was supposed to disembark, he was instead locked away in the privacy of his bathroom while the other Kages were departing. Minato knew it must have looked suspicious, but he couldn't help it when his child decided to do backflips. The morning sickness was slowly creeping away, but he still found himself a little queasy early in the morning. He never thought he could miss his hourly snack of pasty saltine crackers so much. Are you all right, sir? Minato heard Shikaku ask as he lightly tapped his middle finger on the door. Minato slowly sat up from the toilet. Yeah, I am now, he replied. Indeed, he had been doing much better, at least he did not vomit despite the queasiness. Minato exited the bathroom. The other Kages have already left, Shikaku told Minato what he had already expected. Only the Tsuchikage remains because he wants to see you off. Minato nodded his head. Right, he said as walked past Shikaku. The Nara narrowed his eyes suspiciously at his leader's back. Minato always had a late start in the mornings and he was sensitive about what he ate. That was sure some case of acute gastritis, if only it was that. Maybe it was, but there was just something nagging Shikaku in the back of his head. Something serious was going on with Minato, but then again it was just a bit too bothersome to deal with it. Thank you for your hospitality. I look forward to the ever-closing gap between our villages, Minato said. Onoki smiled widely. As do I. Complete hogwash. Sure, Minato meant what he said, but he knew Onoki did not. If old man Onoki could have this way, he would use Suna as a footstool and Konoha as his wasteland. Mist was open, secretly persecuting bloodlines while Cloud was soaking it up. Minato made a mental note to raise security measures for his clans. Kumo was starting to crave Keke Genkais a little too much for his liking. Kumo even tried to kidnap his wife when she was a teenager. At this point there was no low they wouldn't sink to. The village hidden in the sand were having a recession. The value of their money had dropped and stagflation rose, making them more desperate for business. Minato had half a mind to raise his own country's currency just so the sand could compete more fairly with them for business. Unfortunately, he knew the elders and the businessmen of his districts would flat out refuse. Plus there was something bothering him about Jinshin. Minato knew how the man worked if he felt like a trapped rat. The case cage would be resolved to make desperate attempts that could very well devastate his own country. Suna in Minato's mind was like the wind, ever gushing, unstable and unpredictable. They were allies but only for now until something else came along. Suna would make a deal with the devil and drive the pitchfork into Konoha. So overall the Gokage dinner accomplished nothing he had hoped. Expect giving him more work with the first upcoming annual Chunin exams. Minato sighed. Welcome to politics, he thought despairingly to himself. Behind the smiles and civility was nothing but underhanded, greedy ambitions. Stuff like this made him wonder why he wanted to be the Hokage in the first place. Strangely enough, Minato could not imagine anything but being Hokage. Suddenly Minato looked up. He noticed that a strange-looking crow was watching him through the dense branches of a nearby tree. He did not like the way its dark beady eyes made eye contact with his. The bird looked as though he was calculating, was it studying him? Animals usually studied the forest around them in order to survive, but this crow was way too focused on him in particular for Minato's taste. Ca. The bird croaked. It spread its wings and took off into the sky. Minato-sensei, Rin asked. Is something wrong? She could feel his uneasiness. No, it's nothing. Minato offered his student a smile. Mission accomplished. Let's go home. In the shadows of the forest a man manifested seemingly out of thin air. He wore a hooded cloak that covered his face and hands. He passively watched the Hokage and his comradeship leave the forest. This changes everything, he muttered to himself. Days later Kushina found herself pacing around her house. Minato was due back yesterday but it was okay. Dates can change. Sure he didn't write while he was away but it was okay too. He had Rin was with him. Kushina clenched her fist. Finally she decided to go to the ramen stand. She happened to be an emotional eater since she didn't drink. Ramen makes it all better, she muttered desperately as she made her way out the door. Even if it's only until the bowl empties. Kushina made her way to Ichiraku's ramen. It was right after lunch rush hour so she was sure she would get a seat. Another bowl, please. Extra parsley. A familiar voice requested. Kushina ears perked up. As she made her way closer until the tails of Minato's Hokage coat came into view. What the heck? Kushina's eye twitched. Here she was worried about husband's safe return and the first place she finds him at the ramen stand stuffing his face. As Minato began to happily chow down on his third ramen bowl, Kushina came up behind him, hands on her hips. Well, I now know where I stand. The hairs on the back of Minato's neck stood up. Cheeks stuffed and noodles dangling from his mouth. He turned to face Kushina only inches from his. If Kushina was a good mood she would have had a good laugh. Minato swallowed his mouthful. Kushina koi. I'm back home, honey. He greeted her nervously. That creepy smile on his wife's face only got scarier as she leaned in and said, you would think of nearly being away for over a week that you would come to your sexy wife but no. You run to the ramen stand. Of course not I came here because I knew you would be here. You liar. Kushina shook her fist at him. Minato, I swear if you weren't PR. Kushina bit her tongue just in time. Exhausted from that long trip I would clobber you, Databane. Thank you your mercy, Kushina. Minato gulped knowing full well how bad his wife's left hook was. Kushina huffed as she sat down next to Minato on a bar stool and demanded, 2 bowls of soy ramen, Minato's paying. Right away, ma'am, the chief didn't dare to hesitate. After a moment of awkward silence Minato dared to venture out, I'm sorry, Kushina, I didn't mean to upset you. I really did miss you, he confessed sincerely. Kushina sniffled as she picked nails. I know you did, I missed you too, Minato. Minato leaned over and kissed her. I love you. It was 12:45 in the afternoon and Minato was starving. Normally he would take an hour break for lunch but unfortunately he was neck-high in paperwork. His assistant Maihatsu was out filing some documents so she couldn't get his food for him. Luckily for Minato, the solution to his problem came walking into his office. Kakashi, you're back 2 days early. He greeted his prized student. Hey, sensei, Kakashi greeted him distractedly. He had his nose in one of Jiraiya's novels. I'm here to turn in my mission report. Kakashi, I need a favor, Minato said suddenly in a grave tone. Kakashi closed his book and gave Minato his full attention. Yes, sensei. I need you to run down to Ichiraku's and bring me back 2 herbal chicken ramen bowls with extra parsley, he said in all seriousness. Kakashi stared at Minato with a slight face fault. What? He asked finally. Come again, sensei. You heard me correctly the first time, Minato said. This is a D-ranked mission. Go. Could I not take this assignment? Kakashi asked, trying to get out of it. Or maybe I can go later. Taking Kakashi plight into consideration, Minato nodded. Okay then, can you go get my food 20 minutes from now? Kakashi blinked owlishly. No. Then 30 minutes from now. No. 40 minutes from now. No. 50 minutes. No. Minato's lips went thin. Annoyed, he asked, a whole hour from now. That must have been the wrong answer. Kakashi literally flinched back when he saw Minato's face darken with a thunderous frown. It practically scared the crap out of him. Minato only gave enemies that look when he was about to slit their throats. Sensei, you are unbelievable, Minato snapped suddenly. Almost too scared to ask, Kakashi only managed to say, wah. I saved your ungrateful numerous times and you can't find the decency to get me some damn ramen. If not for your sensei then at least your Hokage, but no, Minato ranted angrily. Kakashi held up his hands in defense. Now sensei. Don't sensei me and get out of my office. Minato sensei, wait a moment. Out. But, Minato pointed toward the door. Out. He stressed. Kakashi practically ran to the door. It was 15 minutes later before Minato decided to go get his own lunch when he heard a knock at the door. Come in, almost guardedly, Kakashi entered the room with his peace offerings. Hey sensei, in his hands were 2 steaming bowls of herbal chicken ramen. I got your order. Minato looked up sharply. So, you decided to do the mission after all. Kakashi nodded. Well, I'm sorry Kakashi. 1. I did not officially give you the assignment so you are not getting paid, and 2. I don't want ramen anymore. What? Kakashi's lone eye went wide as a saucer with disbelief. But you gave me the intent and, Kakashi just sighed. He didn't have the faintest clue why his sensei was acting so weird today but decided to just surrender. Pissing off someone who can end your life in 0.31 of a second was not a good idea. Then what do you want, sensei? I want pork buns with raspberries, Minato said. As an afterthought he added, maybe in some sweet and sour sauce. He smacked his lips a little. Ew. Kakashi thought but kept his opinion to himself. Do you want the pork buns in the sweet and sauce? He asked instead. Minato's nose twitched. Ew. No. On the raspberries of course. He corrected him. Kakashi made a face. Noticing the look Minato asked, what? Nothing. Nothing at all. Kakashi motioned to the 2 ramen bowls in his hands. What will I do with these? Minato looked at the bowls thoughtfully and sighed. No need to be wasteful. I'll eat them as a snack while you go get my pork buns and raspberries drenched in sweet and sour sauce, Minato answered decisively as he took the bowls out of Kakashi's hands. Minato carefully put away his documents in a folder before sitting down at his desk and proceeded to eat the ramen. Kakashi just stood there staring at him. How did Minato-sensei even have the room in his stomach to eat all that? Not including the food he was going to go get. He never saw his sensei eat so much in one setting. Geez, if these were those so-called sympathy pains, he would hate to see if he was actually pregnant. Kakashi surpassed a shudder at the mere thought. Thank goodness men couldn't have children. Swallowing his mouthful, Minato looked up. Why are you still here? No reason in particular. See ya in 15 minutes, Kakashi teleported out of his office. While waiting for his order at Hanami Dango, Kakashi contemplated the situation. Rin was still dodging him as of late, and his sensei's Akamichi-sized hunger only added to the mystery. That's it. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Kakashi swore out loud, shocking all the occupants in the restaurant. Sir, your order, the cook said as he handed his dumplings and fruit cup in a takeout box. Thanks. Kakashi took the bag and left. He delivered it to his sensei, who not only had finished the ramen bowls but dug into the pork buns with vigor. His eye twitched. Sympathy pains his butt. And Kakashi knew where he should go, straight to the Kyuubi's mouth. Full of resolve, Kakashi made his way until a local bookshop owner walked out and placed up a sign. The Naughty Heels series volume 1 through 8 was for sale in Konoha. Kakashi's eyes bulged. Jiraiya had mentioned he was writing a miniseries. Without realizing it, Kakashi squealed. Okay. Detour. Books first, Namikaze residence second. About 82.58 Rio later, Kakashi eventually arrived on the Namikaze's doorstep. Good afternoon, Kushina-san. Kakashi greeted his sensei's wife unusually merrily. Who wouldn't be merry with Naughty Heels in his grasp to read soon as he leave here with answers? Afternoon, Kakashi. Kushina greeted him cheerily. My, am I getting company today or what? Kakashi wondered. He was escorted to the living where he saw a large woman sitting on the couch. Oh, Akamichi-san, he recognized the lady to be Choza Akamichi's wife. She had short brown hair and a plump face, but she was very cute despite the weight. Most Akamichis liked their women big-boned, anyway. Kakashi-san, she greeted him warmly. Takuma-san is fine, dear. As chubby as most Akamichi wives are, Takuma was especially large around the waist. Her belly was too round and firmly protruded to be mistaken for belly fat. Forgive me, Takuma-san, for being so forward, but are you pregnant? He asked. Yes, Takuma stroked her swollen stomach. I'm 35 weeks. Oh, congratulations, Kakashi replied politely. Thank you. Say, Kakashi, can you lend me a hand in the kitchen? Kushina asked nicely. I want to bring out some tea and snacks. Kakashi nodded. Sure. Kakashi placed his books down near the couch and followed Kushina into the kitchen. While the two were preparing refreshments, Takuma began to feel weird. Takuma groaned softly from the living room as she rubbed her bulging stomach. She wasn't sure what was happening at first, but then she popped. Kushina. Takuma gasped. My water's broke. What? Kushina cried, nearly dropping the cooking tray in shock. But you're not due for another week. Kakashi paled, but for a different reason. He hurried back to the living room. Gah, my books. No. Kakashi cried as he fell on his knees before the amniotic-soaked pile. The baby's coming. It's coming, ah. Takuma screamed as the first contraction came into play. Kushina and Kakashi exchanged wide-eyed looks. Takuma was having a baby. At home, and who does she have to help her? A clueless teenager and an equally clueless woman. Kushina breathed. Okay. She was the adult, she had to be calm. She had to be focused. But all her focus went down the drain when Takuma screamed again. Takuma. Oh my Kami. Oh my Kami. Kushina panicked. Kakashi. What are we going to do? What are we gonna do? She exclaimed hysterically while shaking the poor sliver-haired boy. Indeed, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze was nothing more but a clueless woman who was scared out of her mind. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Get help. Ow. He exclaimed when Kushina dropped him. Right. Kushina grinned. Help. How should we do this? Kakashi was about to volunteer, but then Kushina exclaimed, Minato. He can use his Hiroshin. Now how did Minato show me that emergency reverse summon? She muttered to herself. My Hatsu squeaked as a gush of wind blew by her desk. Her eyes barely caught a yellow and white streak. You think by working a year under these conditions she would be used to her boss's antics about now? She shook her head. Minato hurried into the men's restroom. It's not like he could mark a urinal. What if someone just happened to be using the one he marked? Yeah. Awkward. Minato breathed a loud sigh of relief as he unzipped his pants and let natural flow. It was like running through wide open plains with blossoming flowers, blue skies and the smell of spring on the wind. Kushina made the hand signs Minato had shown her, focused her chakra and called out, reverse summon jutsu. Minato was still peeing when he was summoned. Instead of happily peeing in his urinal, he was instead unloading in his own living room, in front of his wife, in front of Choza's wife, Takuma, and in front of his student, Kakashi. Kakashi watched with horror as his sensei's pee finished off his beloved books. Kakashi swore he would never touch them again. Takuma forgot her pain and stared. Blushing like mad, she had to admit the Yondaime was truly a man among men. Phew. Kushina pinched her nose and waved her hand in front of face. She instantly regretted cooking asparagus for dinner last night. No more asparagus for you, mister. That's when reality came back to smack Minato in the face. He trembled as he calmly zipped his pants back up. Kushina, why? With his face turning red, Minato asked thinly. Why are you summoning me here while I'm trying to take a leak? Kushina squeaked at the icy tone. My bad, Minato Koi. She apologized quickly. But I really need your help. Minato relaxed. Anger gone and worried filled, he asked, what's wrong? Takuma-chan's in labor. I need you to bring a midwife here pronto. All right, Minato agreed. Getting a handle on the situation, he ordered, Kushina, go help Takuma-san lay down on a bed. I'll be right back with some help. Right. Thanks, Minato. Wait. Kakashi cried out. Take me with you, sensei. But it was too late. In a yellow flash, his sensei was already gone, and so was his only escape route. Damn it. Kakashi, help me get Takuma-chan to the guest bedroom. Kushina ordered. Minato's right. The couch isn't the best place for a baby to be born. Getting Takuma to the bedroom was not an easy task for Kakashi. Thinking that Kushina was pregnant, he placed most of the Akamichi's weight on his shoulders as they trudged along the hallway. Once they got Takuma to the bed, it creaked horribly. Takuma gasped in alarm. Kushina-chan. The frame isn't made of steel. No. Why? Eek. Takuma let out an abrupt scream as the bed collapsed under her weight. Takuma groaned in embarrassment and pain. I'm so sorry. Never mind that, Takuma. Kushina replied earnestly, actually feeling worse that the bed gave up on the hefty woman rather than her ruined furniture. She patted her friend's shoulder soothingly. Just focus on yourself, on your baby. Thank you. True to his word, Minato was back with Rin and another medic 2 minutes later. This will be my first. Rin admitted nervously. The older medic smiled warmly. It'll be okay, I'll gild you. Thank you. Rin nodded appreciatively. I'll be back. I'm going to find Choza, Minato announced before he disappeared again. Kakshi's eyes widened. There was no way he was going to get involved in this. The medics are here, so I'll just be going now. A clumpy hand grabbed onto Kakashi's wrist. Please don't leave me, Takuma cried. This is scary. Kakashi's eye twitched. Lady, you have no idea. Kushina grabbed Takuma's other hand. Don't worry, Takuma. Kakashi and I will be here all the way. Kakshi groaned, but Takuma's scream drowned out his cry of dismay. Takuma's labor was progressing faster than expected. By the time Minato made it back with Choza, Takuma was already starting to push. Not only did he bring Choza, but he also brought along the Akamichi's best friends, Shikaku Nara and Inoichi Yamanaka. He found the three together at some restaurant sharing a late lunch. Ah! A scream ranged out. Honey! Choza called as he rushed to the bedroom. Minato and the others remained outside. As Takuma screamed again, Minato felt his heart quickening as his eyes widened in fear. By Kami. That sounds horrible. He didn't realize he had said that out loud. Best get used to it. Kushina will be having your kid soon, Shikaku remarked. Ah, but before that, our kids will be born. Inoichi announced proudly. Minato's eyes widened. Wow, you're both expecting too. Shikaku nodded. For the both of us this September. Minato grinned. Congratulations. He bumped fist with Shikaku and Inoichi. Thanks. I can't wait until my son is born. With Cho's kid, Shikaku's and mine the Shika Ino Cho team will go on into next generation. Inoichi bragged. Oh, you know the gender already? Minato asked. Shikaku rolled his eyes. No he doesn't, he snipped. Heck, I don't even know what my child is yet. Inoichi twitched. A guy can dream, Shikaku. Dreaming doesn't make Y chromosomes, the Nara replied wisely. Anyway, I find it a bit fascinating that our wives are pregnant around the same time, Minato remarked. Something in the water, he joked. Shikaku snorted. More like something in the vodka. That 25th birthday bash Jiraiya-sama threw for you did a lot of people in for parenthood, Minato. Including yourself. He shook his head with amusement. You think we would have learned from our teenage years that booze and condoms don't mix? Minato chuckled sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his neck. The atmosphere of merriment was stripped bare by Takuma's cries. Minato paled, feeling much sympathy for the laboring mother. How do women deal with this? Wait. That's when he realized that all too soon he would have to go through the same thing. An uneasy feeling settled at the bottom of his stomach. Minato made a mental note to tell Bawako he wanted a cesarean section. It was another 20 minutes and lots of screaming later, before an infant's cry was heard. Inoichi breathed a sigh of relief. Finally. A moment later, Choza exited the room, fidgeting with excitement. He boomed. It's a boy. So what are you going to name him? Shikaku asked. Well, we didn't know the at first, so we decided if it was a boy, we name him Choji. If it was a girl, we name her Choyuri, so his name is Choji. Choza announced proudly. There was a round of applause and many more congratulations. Congrats. How is Takuma-san? Minato asked. She's worn out, but fine. They're both healthy. Come see for yourselves. Since they couldn't all fit in the room, the three men stood at the doorway. Takuma's face beamed with love and pride as she held her newborn. A spot of brown hair on his crown and large red cheeks, Choji looked absolutely adorable. Especially how he chewed on his tiny little fists. Minato chuckled. Coming into the world wanting to eat was a sign of a true Akamichi. How are you holding up, Takuma-san? Minato asked. Fine. I'm tired, but it was all worth it. Thank you everyone, she said sincerely before pulled her son closer to her. I'm sure it was, Minato replied. Before he could stop himself, a tear ran down his cheek. Oh Kami, me and my hormones. He mentally groaned. Kushina sniggered in amusement. You don't have to cry, Minato, she nudged him gently. You sentimental sap. I can't help it, Minato sniffled. He wiped away the tears with the end of his sleeve. Minato stared down in wonder at his bloated stomach. His washboard six-pack stomach could resist no longer and had finally given away to form a tender curve. Located right under his belly button was a small mound that was about the size of a grapefruit, and it bulged out right in between his zippers, inhibiting him from zipping his pants up. Hey Minato. What's up? Are you ready to go? Kushina came up. She was dressed in her common clothes. Wearing a light blue low-rise jean skirt that came all the way down to her knees, some casual sandals and a reddish-orange t-shirt. They were supposed to be going to the tree viewing party or a hanami with their closest friends. The cherry blossoms were beautiful this year, and since they had already missed the Yume party, they decided to make it up. Minato looked back at his wife. There goes my favorite pair of jeans, he told her. Almost transfixed, Kushina walked toward Minato. Gingerly she ran her hand across his stretched flesh. Wow, it's really, real, this is actually happening. She squealed excitedly. Of course it's real, Minato said as a matter of factly. Hey, little one, hey. This is mommy, your favorite parent. Teehee. Kushina talked to his stomach. Minato rolled his eyes. Who deemed you as our baby's favorite? Because I say so. Kushina patted the bulge happily before looking back up at Minato. I guess it's sweatpants for you from now on, mister. Gotta make room for Junior. Yeah, I guess so, Minato said with less enthusiasm. The thought of getting bigger suddenly didn't sound so appealing anymore. At first he was excited at the prospect of growing large, round and heavy with child, but now that it was actually happening, Minato realized how much control he was, in reality, losing over his own body. How could he have been deceiving himself for so long to think that he was still in control? Minato slid off his jeans, refolded them and placed them at the bottom of his drawers. It wasn't just his body. It was their body. He was sharing it willingly with his child for only a short little while. He turned back to see that Kushina was still staring at him. Minato felt uncomfortable by the stare. He already felt self-conscious about his changing body, but now he felt even worse. What is it? He asked finally. Nothing, Kushina said, quickly turning away. Minato could hear Kushina snickering. What is it? Minato asked again. This time his voice sounded a bit irritable. Nothing, teehee. Kushina slapped her hand over her mouth to stiff a giggle. Minato sent her a look. Kushina, he said sternly. Oh, Minato, it's nothing. Oh, alright. Kushina gave in. It's just when I looked at you and at your belly while you wear those green boxers, you remind me of K.T. Hehehehehe. Kushina giggled again at her own private joke. Minato's eye twitched. Remind you of what? You know your toad summonings, how they have a fat body and scrawny legs. Kushina's whole frame shook as she tried to hold in her laughter. A vein popped out on Minato's forehead. Kushina continued, but you know you really remind me more of Kermit the Frog than any old toad. Kushina by then couldn't take it anymore. She burst out laughing. Bahahahahaha. Minato jaw dropped. Oh, the cheek. I do not have scrawny legs. He snipped. Well, compared to this, Kushina patted Minato's round stomach. They do appear a bit lanky. Tee-ha-ha-hey-hey-hey. Minato cried out in frustration. You are so wrong. You know that, he said in a strangled tone. Kushina was still laughing her butt off. Minato began to doubt his wife even cared. Kushina wiped the tears from her eyes. Well, ha ha ha, I have to henge that bulge. She made the necessary hand signs. Transformation henge. Mirror illusion jutsu. Kushina's form flickered for a moment before she stabilized. A small, almost unnoticeable bulge appeared under her shirt. She turned to the side. Is this size okay, Minato? Yeah, Minato agreed. I going to change my pants and put on my henge, he told her. Okay, I'll be waiting downstairs. Hurry up, Kushina said and left. I'll be right down, Minato called after her. He sighed as he pulled out some comfy sweatpants. I can't wait to see you, Minato told his unborn baby sincerely. For more reasons than one. It was a bit strange at first to see, but by now, most Konoha citizens have gotten used to seeing their yondaime eating in his office. For the past few months, it has been near impossible to see Minato without either a half-eaten sweet bean roll or an open pack of beef jerky. The sight of a half-eaten ramen bowl on his desk was considered the norm. The ramen was sometimes instant out of a styrofoam cup, but most of the time it came in a porcelain bowl, fresh cooked from Ichiraku's stand, which was by the way getting really good business. Once people saw their yondaime eating there on the daily basics, the place dramatically boomed. For some reason, Minato just couldn't eat enough to satisfy his hunger. Bawako joked it was his body playing catch up. Even so, this was getting out of hand. Minato was starting to wonder if he had an ancestor that was an Akamichi. Speaking of the Akamichi, a clansman was reporting in from his latest mission. Choza, one more thing. Yes, Hokage-sama, are those Oreos? Indeed, it was a pack of Oreo minis. With an amused chuckle, Shuza handed over the snack bag. Here you are, sir. Minato's eyes lit up. Thanks. I'll pay you back, he promised as he tore eagerly into the package. Shuza shook his head. For all you have done for Takuma and me, there's no need. Take care, Minato-kun, he said kindly before leaving. The hunger was persistent, even into the night. As he slept in bed, Minato's mind would think. Smacking his lips a little, Minato finally gave in and rose. Kushina consciousness returned as she felt the bed shift. She was a light sleeper. As amazing as it was Minato who slept like the dead. Minato, she yawned. Where are you going? She asked sleepily. Ah, well, I'm just going to the convenience store. Minato admitted with a sheepish grin, I want some Oreos. Choza gave me some this afternoon, but I'm craving some more. Instantly alert, she untangled the sheets from her legs and clumsily climbed out of bed. I'll go get it. You get back in bed. But, stay. Kushina gently pushed Minato back down on the bed. She threw on a standard kimono and jogged down to the nearest supermarket. Most of them were closed except for a convenience store on the corner of Brashwood Drive. Ho, ho, you should send that husband of yours out on these errands. The cashier teased Kushina as she rung up her items. Well, I would, but Minato had a rough day at work today and I didn't want to disturb him. Kushina made up an excuse quickly. He can use all the rest he can get. With a twinkle in her eye, Mrs. Guzin replied, I'm afraid he needs to get used to these sleepless nights. Once that baby comes, neither of you will get a decent night's sleep for several months. Kushina sent her a smile before accepting her change. Minato, hey, Minato. Kushina shook him awake once she returned home. Minato groaned as Kushina stirred him from sleep. I have your Oreos, sweetie, Kushina told him. She dangled the blue package right in front of his face. Minato yawned. Okay. Just put it on my nightstand, thanks, Koi. But weren't you craving them? I'll eat it tomorrow, zzz. A vein pulsed on Kushina's forehead. Minato. Rin laughed behind her hand. Well, it varies from pregnancy to pregnancy, but yeah, the hunger is normal. Think of it as your body playing catch up from your first trimester. You know, with the morning sickness you could barely eat, much less keep anything down. Rin led Minato to where the scale was. Please step on the scale. Like a little kid who was afraid of being scolded, Minato reluctantly took baby steps toward the scale. I was afraid of this, Minato moaned, expecting the worst. He stepped on the scale. 155. You've gained about 7 pounds in total so far. Great job, sensei. Rin grinned. That's about right. She wrote it down on his chart. Minato blinked disbelievingly. Really? Rin nodded. Really? Ah. Minato looked relieved. What? Kushina shrieked. He's been starving me in the village out of Oreos, and you mean to tell me he's only gained a small amount of weight? The redhead shouted incredulously. Minato pouted. I don't eat that much. Oh, Kushina questioned. Do I also have to mention that noodle imports have gone up lately? Minato cringed. Kushina-chan, that's a low blow. He grumbled. And as if you are not partially to blame for that, he muttered under his breath. Unfortunately, for Minato, Kushina heard him. Kushina raised an eyebrow. What are you implying? At least I have a reason to eat, Minato told her. You don't, and yet you sit there binging right along with me. Kushina gaped. Minato did not just say that to her face. Well, what am I supposed to do? She demanded. Salivate a river while you eat. Rin cleared her throat nervously. I think an easy way to settle this is to have Kushina get on the scale, she suggested. Fine. Kushina agreed. She turned toward Minato. I'll even bet you Ichiraku's ramen. Deal, Minato said. Kushina crackled. Salt ramen, here I come. And stepped on the scale. The needle moved a little further than expected. Okay. Maybe a lot more than expected. You have gained 13 pounds, Kushina-san. What? The redhead demanded. This thing must be broke. Off-balanced or something. Rin nodded. Yeah, it's off-balanced by you, Kushina-san, she said politely. Kushina, I'm home, Minato called as he entered the front door. The meeting didn't go over as expected. He explained as he released his genjutsu. Welcome home. Kushina singed as she sprinted into the room with arms wide open. Minato grinned as he held out his arms. But instead of running into his arms, Kushina dived lower and wrapped her arms around his paunch. Did you have a good day today? I bet Daddy feed you lots of ramen. Yes he did, yes he did. She cooed the baby in his belly. Once she was done, she greeted her husband. Hey, Minato Koi. Gee, Nice afterthought, Kushina, Minato grumbled. Sorry, but I can't help it. You just keep getting bigger and bigger. And it sorta draws my attention, Kushina squealed as she eyed Minato's expanding middle. From the front I can't tell you're pregnant too much until you turn to the side and then it looks like you swallowed a honeydew melon whole. Minato groaned before scoffing, and you like reminding me of it. While rubbing her cheek against his stomach, Kushina squealed. You look so cute, she confessed. Minato sent his wife a disapproving look. I'm not attractive like this, he disagreed. Looking down at his baby bump he said, I feel like a hippopotamus. Kushina stood up and kissed the tip of his nose. Then you are a very cute hippo, she replied good-naturedly. Yes you are, yes you are. She cooed him. Kushina. Minato whined. Deciding she had tortured the poor man enough, Kushina backed away. While heading back to the living room she asked, so how was your day, Koi? Minato wiggled out of his Hokage coat. Same old thing, you. He asked as he placed his cape on the coat rack. Well, I did the laundry and then I decided to start on a baby book today. Kushina replied cheerfully. Minato smiled. He walked into the living room to see it cluttered with white and pink lace, cardboard paper and many photos scattered about. So, what did you decide to add for today? Our family trees, she answered. The smile on Minato's lips died instantly. Kushina didn't notice as she continued. And I couldn't find a picture of your father. So who was he, Minato? She asked curiously. You only told me about your mother, Umi. Minato was silent in a rather eerie way. Kushina looked over her shoulder and asked again. Minato sighed long and hard. I really don't want to talk about it, Kushina, he admitted in a small voice. Here, picking up a portrait photo out of the pile on the living room table, he handed it to Kushina. Just add my mother for now. Kushina's smile fell. But Minato. Here, he said again. Kushina frowned. This wasn't healthy. Minato, what are you? Fine, Kushina. Minato finally snapped. I don't know who my father was. Are you happy now? What? Kushina asked unsure. You know what I'd said, Minato sniffled. He didn't know why he felt so vulnerable all of a sudden, stupid hormones. Kushina looked away. In a small voice she answered, not really. Minato calmed down as he glazed at his wife. He sat down next to her on the couch. I was sort of, Minato trailed as he scratched the back of his head uneasily. He hunched over shamefully before explaining, I think I was conceived from a fling. A one-night stand, he admitted quietly. Kushina didn't know what to say to that. Oh, Minato hung his head even lower. Yeah, Mom never told me who he was. Well, Kushina bit her lip, trying to think of a dignified way out of this awkward situation. After thinking of one, her face lit up in a smile as she said, well, it was the best split-second decision Umi ever made in her life. Minato looked up in surprise. To the best of her ability she raised her son into a good man who became the love of my life, the father of our daughter and the Hokage of Konoha no Sato. Minato gave her a grateful smile but then he paused. Wait, did you say daughter? Yeah, Minato blinked. You want our baby to be a girl? He asked. Kushina's eyes lit up. Of course I do. I'm gorgeous and you're so feminine. Hey, it's a compliment, Minato. Between the two of us, our baby will be breathtakingly beautiful. Kushina answered with a tender look on her face. Besides, I always wanted a girl named Akane. Minato chuckled a bit. Kushina, it's a bit too soon to even talk about names. What if it's a boy? He reasoned. Kushina snorted. Oh please, Minato, it's going to be a girl. But there is a 50-50 chance. Databane. It's a girl, Kushina said with a hint of finality. Minato barely restrained rolling his eyes. Fine, theoretically if it is girl, why do you want one? Because she's going to be everything I'm not, Kushina replied. Kushina's answer caught Minato off guard. Things like beautiful, gentle, smart and thoughtful. Kushina trailed. Looking up hopefully at Minato she confessed. I want her to be just like you. But Kushina, you are those things, Minato told her sincerely. Kushina giggled. Oh Minato, you're such a flirt. Minato frowned. I'm serious. Kushina pecked a kiss on his cheek before changing the subject. So about your dad, do you have any idea who he is or you just don't want to know? Kushina asked. Minato let out a sigh as he ran a hand through his shaggy locks. Apparently Kushina was still very self-conscious about herself after all these years. Minato contemplated before he admitted quietly, yeah, I think I may know who he was. Really? Kushina piped. Well who? Well you see, when I was kid, probably around 4 years old, I was going grocery shopping with my mother when. Flashback. Mina-chan. Umi-kude. You are getting be a big boy. You are almost old enough to join the academy. I wanna show everybody that I will be the next Hokage. Umi giggled at her son's excitement. Just 2 more years, be patient little one. Minato nodded. Yes mommy. Now will you help me out, Mina-chan? I need you to go to aisle 6 and grab a jar of peanut butter. The creamy spread. Minato smiled. He was always eager to help. Yes, mommy. I'll be right back. He answered immediately before rushing off. The jar was on a lower shelf so Minato was able to get it easily. Proud of himself, Minato hurried back. Just as he was about to turn the corner when, he heard someone shout. It sounded like his mother. Minato decided to halt and peek over. A tall man was standing there right in front of his mother with a grocery basket tucked under his arm. He had teal eyes and a handsome face. His long light blue hair fell down to his waist. He was cosily dressed and had a confident yet gentle aura about him. Hello, Umi-chan, he tried to greet her. Don't. Chan. Me. Umi or Umi-san is fine, Minato's mother snipped. The man looked a little stung at the command but complied. It's been 5 years, Umi-san, he said quietly. I didn't think you would want to see me, Dan-san, Umi remarked. Minato's eyes widened. He could almost hear the resentment building up in her usually sweet and soft voice. Her aggressive demeanor made him uneasy. His stormy blue eyes flickered over to the stranger who was distressing her. The one she had called Dan. Dan must have felt it too. He winced back a little. Umi, please don't be like that. It's not like I had been avoiding you. He pleaded. I was stationed in Rain Country for the last 4.5 years, he explained. But even before I left the village, I haven't seen you at all, he trailed off, looking at her inquisitively. Umi gnashed her teeth. Fine, I was out of Konoha for about 2 years visiting family in the land of waves if you must know. Hey kid, why are you standing there? Dan asked, noticing little Minato's presence. Minato visibly jerked. Sheepishly, with his eyes on the ground he walked back to Umi and held the jar up to her. I got the peanut butter. Forcing another smile to her lips, Umi took the jar from Minato. Thank you Mina-chan. His shyness leaving him all at once, Minato responded brightly, you're welcome, mommy. I guess a lot change can happen in 5 years, Umi stammered, obviously trying to play it cool and failed. Trying to be friendly, Dan sent Minato a kind smile. Well, hello there, I'm Dan. Who might you be? He asked gently. Minato unconsciously held onto his mother's dress as he looked shyly up at the stranger. I'm Minato, he decided add his last name. Namikaze, Dan-san. Dan looked up sharply at Umi before looking back down at Minato. He then asked the little boy, Minato, can you please tell me how old you are? A little nervously, Minato was about to open his mouth to answer when a slender hand closed in over his lips. Minato, we are leaving to go to the checkout counter, Umi ordered in a stern tone. Dan frowned. Umi. Good day, Dan-san, Umi said with a hint of finality. She looked down at Minato expectantly. Minato, what do you say when you are about to depart? Ah. Minato quickly bowed his head politely to the cerulean-haired man. It was nice meeting you, bye-bye Dan-san. He managed to say before being dragged away by this mother. Over his shoulder he could see Dan watching them go. The man seemed troubled as if he was agonized with some sort of internal conflict or maybe he just had a tummy ache. Minato didn't know. Dot, dot, dot. It was a few days later when Minato saw the blue-haired man again. It was late at night. Almost at 11 o'clock that night there was the patter of small feet echoing off of the wooden floors. Minato groggily was making his way back to his room after having used the toilet when he heard voices coming from downstairs. Rubbing the sleepiness out of his eyes, Minato went to investigate. Oh, forget this. Minato heard his mother snap. Why did I even let you in here? Remembering how he was caught peeking last time, Minato carefully crouched down near the end of the hallway. He hid behind a large porcelain vase. It was that man again, and this time he was sitting down at the kitchen table. Silently, Minato saw how Dan's eyes seemed to sharpen as he looked over at his mother, clearly frustrated. In a stern but quiet voice he said, "Umi, if he is my son, I have a right to see him. You made it pretty clear you didn't want me in your life after that night." Umi almost yelled. "Why do you care? Aren't you now dating that big girl, Sutsu?" Dan's frown darkened. "Her name is Tsunade Senju, and yes, I am currently dating her. In fact, she is my fiancé." His answer seemed to disappoint his mother. Umi deflated as she sunk back down in her chair. "Darn it all. The only time I got totally smashed in my whole life," and she trailed and sighed. Her countenance softened as she confessed sincerely, "Minato, as unexpected and unplanned as he was the best thing that ever happened to me. I love him dearly." "Umi, listen," Dan began, choosing his words carefully. "I know we messed up that night at the Crystal Palace, but this isn't about us, this is about Minato," he said earnestly. Umi seemed to wince a little. "And Minato deserves to know me. I will do everything in my power to support both of your needs. I can take care of us without your charity." Umi snapped angrily. "Who do you think you are anyway? How do you even know Minato is your son?" "There were others." Dan reeled back as if had been slapped. What? His shock then turned to anger. "Umi, stop saying nonsense. Do you even realize what you are implying?" he asked. "I know you are not that type of girl. I respect you too much for that." Umi was on the verge of angry tears. "You don't even care, much less know. You don't understand anything." "I understand." "No, you don't. Umi, please, I know this is difficult for you." "Darn straight it is," Umi retorted. She sent Dan a scorching glare. "You know what, Dan? Minato may be the best thing that ever happened to me, but you were definitely the worst." Dan's sweat dropped a little, but then he sighed in defeat. "Considering what happened, I guess you're right," he perceived. There was an awkward silence. "Can you just leave now?" Umi asked in a small, exhausted voice. "It's late." Dan nodded. "I'm sorry to disturb you so late at night." He got up to collect his jacket from the coat rack near the door. As he slid into his jacket, Dan said, "Minato seems like a bright kid. You're doing a good job raising him." Looking back over his shoulder, Dan asked, "Will you consider letting him join the Ninja Academy when he turns 6? "If it was up to me, I wouldn't, but Minato is so adamant about it," Umi said with a sad smile. "Ever since we ran into the Sandaime in the marketplace, that's all he talks about, is becoming Hokage one day." Dan's eyes lit up. "I believe he can do it. Maybe he'll become Hokage after me, someday," he remarked. "You still want to become Hokage, Dan?" Umi asked in surprise. "Yeah." More silence. "Umi, I'll give you some time to think about this, alright?" Dan offered hopefully. "I will be away for the next 3 weeks in the land of grass on a mission. I'll stop by when I come back. Will you have your answer by then?" Umi twiddled her fingers nervously. "I make no promises." An optimistic smile glowed on Dan's face. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a stuffed animal. It was a bluish frog-looking creature with a plush cerulean blue body and a soft slivery underbelly complete with glossy copper button eyes. Minato's eyes lit up as he saw the toy. Umi wrinkled her nose in distaste. "What is that thing?" "This is Mr. Buttons the Toad," Dan answered. "My favorite childhood plushie. It's a demented frog with button eyes," Umi remarked. "Will you give this to Minato?" Dan asked hopefully, ignoring Umi's insult. "You don't have to say it's from me." Minato wanted to run and thank Dan-san, but fortunately he was able to contain himself. Umi stared at the stuffed animal with a look of disdain, but she didn't disagree. Satisfied, Dan walked to back door and opened it. "Thank you, I'll see you soon," he said and left. The problem was that Dan never came back. Well, he did, but he was in a pine wood box. And Minato had never seen his mother cry so long and hard for weeks on end when she thought he wasn't listening in. End flashback. Wow, Minato, Dan Kato, Tsunade's old flame. Kushina gasped. Wow, just, wow, wow. Kushina, she chanted in awe. Wow. Minato chuckled. That's all you can say. Of course. Kushina stuck her face right into Minato's. She began to scrutinize him. Now that I really look at your facial features, you really do look a lot like him. The nose, the almond jawline, and the narrow eyes. Oh my Kami. You really took after his feminine beauty. Kushina insisted. Well, at least now I know where it comes from. Kushina. Minato snapped, scandalized. I prefer masculinity. Kushina giggled as she her head to the side. I think you inherited his personality too. Now that I think about it, she added as an afterthought. How do you know what he was like? Minato asked, intrigued. Well, for one thing, I met Dan right before he was Kia. Sorta passed him on my way into Konoha. I remembered him because he greeted me cheerily, that and because he looked like a sissy. I even mistaken him for a girl at first. Minato's sweat dropped. And then years later Tsunade-sama told me about him when she was drunk off her. She even told me that Dan was a wuss who could not hold his liquor well. I guess that confirms how he wind up with Umi that night. Everyone knows the Crystal Palace is a fancy pub where you can. I really don't want to talk about it, Minato said quickly. Besides, there is no biological proof anyway. Is there a way to get some and then have it tested? Kushina pressed. Minato sent his wife a stern frown. Kushina, I really think it is best to leave things as they are, buried. Kushina sighed. She sent Minato an apologetic look. I just can't help it. I'd really want to know. Knowing my family history is very important to me and I want our baby to know his family. Let this be a lesson to us that we will do our best to be there for our child and start a new legacy, Minato insisted brightly. Yeah, that sounds insightfully good, Kushina said before pointing a mock glare at her husband. But you are trying to get off the subject. And apparently it's not working well, Minato dully noted. Kushina walked back into the kitchen. So what do you want for dinner? She asked. Minato scratched the side of his belly thoughtfully. I'm really having a craving for battered shrimp, he admitted. With a relieved sigh, Minato fell back on the couch. With the added weight, it was easier to plop down rather than sit down gracefully. Kushina blinked. Really? Do you now? Kushina looked through the freezer. Hun, we don't have any shrimp, she slammed the fridge door close. Why don't we just go out to eat tonight? Kushina suggested cheerfully. I heard a restaurant called the Sliver Seas was a great place for fried seafood. Minato's face brightened. Okay, that would be nice, he grunted slightly as he heaved himself up from the couch. Kushina giggled as she watched him. You had me worried there. I actually thought you were going to need help getting up from there. A sadistic smirk crossed her lips. Kermit. Oh, shut up. Minato pouted. With hinges in place, the couple made their way to downtown Leaf. It was Konoha's large outdoor shopping, dining, and entertainment complex located near the center of the village. It was built recently following the Third Great Shinobi War in order to attract tourists to the Hidden Leaf. With the news of the first international Chunin exams underway, the business owners were busy renovating their establishments with costly materials in hopes of attracting men of wealth and daimyos. I guess we came at rush hour, Kushina remarked as the pair zigzagged in between the crowds. Normally they would travel by rooftop but decided to go by foot instead. Near the end of the street, Minato managed to spot the restaurant logo first and pointed it out to Kushina. Alright, let's see how long the wait is going to be. A long line outside the building greeted them. Aw man, Kushina whined. It's okay, Kushina. Let's try somewhere else, Minato suggested. Anywhere with fried shrimp is good enough for me. Kushina was about to agree when suddenly she spotted two familiar brunettes. Ah, Kushina said, surprised. Makoto-chan, Fugaku-kun. She called to them. The Uchiha couple turned around. Makoto looked pleasantly surprised while Fugaku looked positively annoyed. Hello, it's nice to see you, Kushina-chan, Minato-kun. Makoto greeted them back. So what are you two lovebirds doing out, especially without little Itachi-chan? Kushina asked playfully. It's Thursday, date night for us, Makoto answered. Trying to make some time before baby number 2 arrives. Kushina teased. Makoto ran a hand over her distended stomach. Well, aren't you? Makoto teased back. And I really wanted to try this place. I've heard their fired clams and battered shrimp were delicious. Minato smacked his lips. Me too. I really would like to try their fried battered shrimp dipped in coleslaw mixed chocolate sauce, he said. Kushina visibly gagged. Makoto blinked. My, having sympathy pains, are we? She joked. The Namikaze couple looked confused. You know, Kushina's cravings rubbing off on you. Makoto half asked, half explained. Oh that, ha 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 ha, Kushina and Minato laughed somewhat awkwardly. If they only knew. Since we are going to be eating at the same place, do you mind if I and Fugaku join you? Makoto asked. Fugaku was about to say something but after a quick jab into his rib, courtesy of Makoto, he hushed. Kushina and Minato hesitated. Well, we don't want to disturb your date. No, not at all, Makoto said. We'll double date tonight. Teehee. Minato's face brightened. Splendid. I'll go get us a reservation for 4, Minato said as he walked inside. Fugaku held up his timer to Kushina. Looking displeased, he said, it's going to be an even longer wait with such a large party. Just for the two of us it's estimated to be at least 68 minutes. Suddenly he overheard squealing. Peeking inside, Fugaku saw the hostess nearly cooing over Minato. Oh, Hokage-sama, welcome to the Silver Seas. The hostess welcomed him graciously. We will be able to seat you and your party within the next 5 to 10 minutes. She rushed off to find her manager. Fugaku's jaw dropped. He was the head of the Uchiha clan and the chief of police for Kami's sake. What was he? Chop liver. Well, compared to the Hokage he was. That really stung his pride. Minato turned back to his friends with a knowing wink. Kushina leaned in and whispered proudly, it's one of the perks of being the Hokage, we use it sparingly of course, teehee. Makoto's eyes sparkled in admiration. Fugaku sighed. Knowing the gleam in his wife's eyes, they were going to dine with the Namikazes as much as they could from now on. They took a seat inside, right in front of the fish tanks as they waited for their table to be set up, in particular the lobster tank. Their claws bounded with rubber bands, the greenish-brown creatures slumped gloomily in the corners of the tank as if they already knew of their terrible fate. Near the center of the tank, two of the armored arthropods began fighting. Suddenly Fugaku heard a snivel. He turned to see the Makoto on the verge of tears. It's so sad, she whispered. Fugaku raised a confused eyebrow but said nothing. After several minutes of fighting one of them gave up the ghost and fell backwards. With its softer belly exposed the victor crawled forward to claim its prize. Makoto clasped her hand over her mouth. How horrible. Fugaku looked disbelievingly at the two. Poor lobsters, what? They were scavengers for Kami's sake. It was just nature at work. To top off this incredulousness the two decided it was an act of mercy to pick that lobster to be steamed and brought to their table. With compassion like that who wanted pity? Now bright red and steaming and obviously very dead, the cooked lobster sat a platter with butter and mini hammers on the side. Don't you think it would have been far more merciful to buy the lobster and release it into the wild? Fugaku asked. Not that he really cared, just curious. Makoto blinked at her husband in surprise. You would have bought the lobster and returned it to the sea for me. Hell no. Not at these prices to let a meal go free, Fugaku deadpanned. He would have told Makoto that's what he was going to do, but then boil it in the woods and eat it for himself. Then this is the next best thing, Makoto said decisively. Looking over at her fellow sympathizer, Makoto tried comforting Minato. Don't worry, Minato-kun. I'm sure he would have wanted it that way. Makoto smiled through the tears. True, it was either getting boiled alive, a quick merciful death, or die slowly of starvation and be eaten by your brethren, Minato reasoned aloud. He sniffed mournfully. You're right, he decided. Makoto lifted her fork. Shall we? Yes. Minato crossed his fork with hers. The two picked up their hammers and began to crack open the lobster's shell. Fugaku raised his eyebrows in disbelief. Did they just justify eating the lobster they were crying over? He asked the only sane person at their table. Don't ask. Kushina sighed while shaking her head. Looking worried, she added, I mean, they shouldn't even be eating lobster. She made a mental note to keep Minato away from seafood for the next month. Fugaku scratched the back of his neck. True. I've tried telling Makoto that, but I got tired of her moaning for it. One seafood dinner won't hurt her, I suppose, her obstetrician said it wouldn't. Under his breath, Fugaku promised that woman's death if she was wrong. Helplessness and desperation were the only emotions Rin could feel as she held onto Obito's hand. The fragile rock cavern shook as it began to cave in into the dusty cavern. But even if the rocks were falling, threatening to crush her as they did her teammate, she wouldn't leave him. She couldn't. Rin, Kakashi cried down to her. He was on the roof waiting for her. He pleaded desperately, come on. Rin felt her heart chest heave painfully. She couldn't. She just couldn't do it. Obito shifted beside her. You need to go, Rin, Obito said weakly. He gathered his strength to roughly dislodge her hand from his. Live on, go. Reluctantly, Rin stood up. If it was for herself, Rin wouldn't have found her courage. It's only for you, Obito. Rin thought determinedly. It's all for you. Channeling chakra into her legs, Rin jumped up to grab Kakashi's hand. To embrace her life as Obito wanted her to. Rin's hand made contact with Kakashi's, but with no tight grip, Rin's hand slid right out of her salvation. Her hand had slipped. It slipped. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was supposed to live. In slow motion, the weight of gravity captured her and pulled back to the grave. Kakashi's eyes widened with horror. He had failed to catch her. He had failed Obito all over again. Riin. Kakashi shrieked. A sickening crack sounded over the rumbling noises as her back snapped a rigid rock. Rin couldn't even feel her legs. The rocks continued to fall. The light faded. A large boulder that crumbled away from the side fell forward and shattered the left side of Rin's body. All her bones were now crushed splinters. Rin cried out in pain. More rocks fell. The next rock crashed on her abdominal, rupturing her spleen and crushing her ribs. The broken ribs punctured her lungs. Rin barely could wheeze as the walls caved in closer, closer and closer until the weight encased her completely. In a desperate attempt to see a small shimmer of light one last time, Rin looked upward to Kakashi. He was helpless to save her, and beside him was, Rin's heart froze. So did time itself when she realized the one standing behind Kakashi in the light was Obito Uchiha himself. Completely unharmed, Obito watched her emotionlessly with the Sharingan activated in both of his eyes. The glint of light was cut off by the stones, but Rin could still see it, those glowing red eyes. A shriek escaped Rin as she jerked awake. She was no longer buried and crushed to death in Earth Country, but alive, whole and breathing in her living room. Rin sprung upward as she let out a shaky breath. Only darkness and the faint glow of a streetlight could be seen coming through her window still. Pale and shaking, Rin released an anguished cry. The nightmare, no, the memories, were back. Rin shot up from bed and rushed to her kitchen sink. Rin hurriedly grabbed a kunai she had hidden in her utensil drawer before she slashed across the flesh of her arm. The line inflicted on her skin stung like fire and continued to burn as the blood began to gush out. Scarlet and gloopy, it oozed out and dripped into the sink, trailing down the porcelain surface and finally trickling down the drain. Rin exhaled in relief. Sweet, sweet relief. The more blood she released, the purer she felt. Let all the uncleanness fall away from her. Her guilt, her failures, her memories, her regrets, him. Rin whimpered. The new scar she created on her arm only added to the collection on her pale porcelain skin. Those tannish brown wounds had yet to fade. Some of them never will. Rin frowned when she realized that the cut she made was closer to her wrist where it could visible. That was the reason why she wore long sleeves in the first place. Rin preferred cutting the upper part of her forearm to prevent anyone from finding out. To her knowledge, no one knew that she cuts herself. Not her cousin, not her fellow coworkers, not Kakashi, and especially not her sensei. Rin wanted it to be that way. She didn't want their pity. Without a doubt they should worry more for themselves. Minato sensei and Kakashi carried their own scars. Perhaps more mentally than physically. Suddenly a rustling sound was heard from her living room window. Jolting around, Rin cried, Who's there? She immediately grasped her wristed to hide the cut. She rushed to her window. The only sight that greeted her was her window garden. The newly planted verbena plant danced gracefully in the gentle evening breeze. Rin narrowed her eyes. Indeed, there was something or someone there. A large belch shattered the pleasant atmosphere. It was so forceful that people turned to look at the table where it had originated from. Makoto was extremely quick and said to Fugaku, How rude, honey. She slapped the stunned man's shoulder. You should at least cover your mouth. I will take credit for no such, yoch. Makoto quickly kicked Fugaku in the shin. The Uchiha leader sighed. While sending a small glare in his wife's direction, he gritted out, Excuse me, honey. You are excused. Makoto replied sweetly. Minato and Kushina chuckled. They only stiffened their laughter when they saw a flash of red glowing from Fugaku's eyes. Makoto. Kushina whispered in awe. How can someone petite as you burp so loud? She laughed. Kushina, you must not remember what happened a week ago at that ice cream parlor, Minato said. He raised an eyebrow at her. We had root beer floats, and if I recall correctly, you belched louder than Makoto ever could. TCH, it was all that soda. Kushina turned away looking embarrassed. Makoto chuckled. You've always been such a tomboy. I'm not really surprised, she told Kushina. Without thinking, she added, Minato acts more like a proper lady than you ever will. Oh my, that didn't come out right. My apologies, Makoto said quickly. It's okay, I get that a lot, Minato deadpanned. Hey, why are you looking at me while saying that? Kushina demanded. Kushina, my dear, who else is the originator? HMPH. Focusing all her ire to her plate, Kushina stuffed several grilled scallops into her mouth at once. As the evening wore on, Minato and Makoto traded their creations to each other while grossing out their beloveds. Wow, this tastes so good, Minato said. He dipped his shrimp into a bowl of coleslaw with extra mayonnaise and chocolate sauce mixed in, made by request. Makoto nodded fervently in agreement. Yeah, who would have thought chocolate coleslaw and battered shrimp taste good together? She was getting a second helping. But not as good as crab cakes smashed into relish with honey mustard and apple sauce. What a tasty and brilliant combination, Makoto. Why, thank you, Makoto said pleasantly. Would you like to try some fried catfish stuffed with cranberry sauce and pepper jack cheese? Love to, Minato said eagerly, reaching for it. Fugaku and Kushina sent their significant others repulsed looks. Disgusting, isn't it? Kushina whispered quietly. Fugaku wrinkled his nose as Minato took another bite of pepper jack cranberry stuffed catfish. Yes, that's most certainly the worst case of sympathy pains I ever did see, he replied. Here, Kushina said. She was about to take a swing of sake when Fugaku stopped her. He placed his calloused hand over her cup. Careful, Namikaze-san, he said. That is sake. Kushina wanted to say, no duh, but played dumb. Oh, Appazi. Thanks, I can't risk harming the baby. Here, Minato-kun, you can use a drink, Fugaku said, pouring a glass for Minato. Aha, Minato hesitated, looking at the wine rice as if it was poison. If Kushina can't drink, neither will I, he said, finding a dignified way out of accepting Fugaku's token. Overhearing everything Makoto said, "That's so considerate. I wish Fugaku was the same way." Turning to her husband, she slapped his shoulder playfully. "You meanie. Drinking like that in front of me. Woman, your mood swings drives me to drink," Fugaku replied. "What's that supposed to mean?" Makoto challenged. The table went deathly quiet as the Uchiha couple gave each other their infamous death glares. Clearing his throat, Minato suggested, "How about we order dessert and tea? I really want to try their key lime pie, and maybe I'll tell them to add anchovies to it," he said while smacking his lips a little bit. Fugaku sent Minato a disgusted look while Kushina visibly gagged. Makoto, on the other hand, and unsurprisingly, looked thoughtful. That sounds fascinating. Can you let me have a taste? I'll share my apple crisp with you." "Sure," Minato said. Turning to his wife, he asked, "What would you like?" What is it?" He noticed the put-off look on Kushina's face. "Nothing at all, Minato coy," Kushina responded. "I'll take just tea, decaf." "Same here," Fugaku said.